This one, I guess I came to announce it, all right? It's the original one.
CSU graduation.
Got it. So now, what I'd like to do is right here on this. Sorry.
I need help for the blessing of the bike. Sunday afternoon.
This comes up, I'll look to you, I'm going to announce it, I'll just look to you.
I'm sorry, I love it. No, I support you. I love that. It's visual management. I can't do both. So, I don't know, there's something in my head.
All right, folks, we're going to start in just a minute. If you could check your cell phones and put those on silent, that'd be great. As soon as we get the on-air sign, we'll go ahead and get started.
Mr. President, you're on.
Are we on? Great. Well, welcome to the Xenia City Council this evening. We're going to start off with invocation by Reverend Bill Schwalkow from First Evangelical Lutheran Church. If you please all rise. Thank you.
God be with you all. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks on this day. We bless you that you have created us, that you have saved us, and you continue to feed us with things that we improve our world. We thank you for the privilege of serving our community. We ask that you guide our council as they meet and discuss matters important and with regard to our city. We pray they shall choose to do what is moral and rational. We pray that their motivation is pure, that everything they want to do is for the good of the public, in service to you as well, and not their own. We know that with your help, they will be able to solve our city's problems and make good policies that address them. Continue to help them to be competent and excellent in their governance. We thank you for everything that you've given us, the work that you've given us to do, and given us the privilege to serve our community. May we always remember that is your role for us in your kingdom, to take care of the creation which you have so graciously provided and renewed for us. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Please stay standing and face the American flag. We'll have Councilman Scrivens lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Recite after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. First item is roll call.
Vice President Smith?
Here.
Councilman Scrivens?
Here.
Councilwoman Dean? Here. Councilman Branham?
Here.
Councilman Dean?
Here.
Mayor Mays? Here. President Urschel?
Here. Thank you. Next item will be approval of minutes of our April 27, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice President. Any comments or clarifications? All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean? Aye. Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays? Aye. President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. We do not have any special presentations this evening. Next item is audience comments, and if you'd like to come and address the council, feel free to do that. I just ask that you please come to the podium. That way you'd be allowed to be heard by the folks online. And please state your name and address. And just before we get going, just let everyone know that our process with you here, we will not be interacting with you while you do your presentation. Sometimes that's a little bit disconcerting when you're talking to someone, but it's not that we're not listening to you or understanding that. If there's items you brought up, you'd like to have some further discussion with us, we typically get one of our council members to follow up with you afterwards as well too. But feel free, if you'd like to come at this time, it's open to the public at this time.
Good evening. My name is Van Holloway, and I'm here with my wife Janelle, and we are residents of Beaver Creek Township. And thank you, Mayor Mays and council members, for the opportunity to share with you tonight. Each of you, I believe, has received a full text regarding a situation my wife wants to share with you, and due to time constraints, we will read a portion of that this evening, and we're going to split our time in reading that, and it won't be split evenly, but I'm going to begin. In Genesis 1:27, we read, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them.
There have been several times during the last 7 months that I have been extremely uncomfortable as I've had to rehash in a public forum the most awkward and unsolicited experience that happened to me on September 26, 2022 at the Xenia YMCA. This experience has brought me to the conclusion that what I do truly hate is the evil that is permitted in our city. On September 26, after finishing up an afternoon swim at the Xenia YMCA, I entered the women's locker room to shower and change as I normally would do. Walking into the locker room, I headed to the locker area to retrieve my bag from a locker that I had used to store my stuff while swimming. As I approached my locker, I shockingly realized that Darren Glines, a former tennis player who I had coached for several seasons at Xenia Christian, and who was also a classmate of my oldest son since their elementary school days, was sitting naked on a bench in very close proximity to me. Standing facing my locker and with my fumbling fingers trying to open my combination lock, I had eternal panic as I was trying to protect myself and get away from Darren. I grabbed all the stuff from my locker and walked back to the shower stall where I had just hung my towel, and then stood in complete silence, watching in the direction to where Darren was sitting through a small crack in the shower door. I was fearful for myself, but more fearful of another woman or girl who might enter the locker room and not know that a naked man was in there. Standing in that shower stall, I silently reassured myself that it was only me who was ever going to have this experience. In just a few minutes, I could inform the YMCA staff so that it could be quickly taken care of in an appropriate manner. All I had to do was wait for Darren to dress and leave the locker room. To this day, I have no idea the reason Darren was actually in the locker room. Is he gender confused and exploring his gender identity? Maybe. Does he have a sexual addiction and he's looking for a place to act out on it? Perhaps. Is he a pedophile? Possibly. Does he think he is a woman? This is what Darren would say. But none of these reasons should give him access to a place where women and young girls are showering, changing, and most vulnerable. What I do know to be true is that Darren Glines is a man and he can never become a woman. Darren Glines or any other man should not be permitted to be in places where women and girls are showering and changing. Contrary to the opinion of the YMCA, his very presence in a women's locker room is unacceptable behavior. I had trusted and respected the YMCA management and had always assumed that they would respect me as a female member. I loved the Y and used it regularly for exercise. It was a place where my husband and I would bring our grandchildren and out-of-town guests to enjoy. The Xenia Y is where my youngest son trained for 2 years prior to entering the Air Force. He is now serving in the Special Forces as a TACP and will soon be deployed to the Korean Peninsula to join in the fight against evil there. And as his proud mom, I have also chosen to fight against evil in my own city. On the day of the incident, I was told by Chris Stevens, a YMCA employee, that Alan Milkus, the director of the Xenia YMCA, would be contacting me very soon. After waiting impatiently for 24 hours, my husband Van stopped by the Xenia Y and initiated a conversation with Alan. Alan did not express any concern for me, nor did he ask how I was doing. But he did ask Van 2 pertinent questions. Did your wife see Darren's genitals? And did Darren speak to your wife in any way that would be sexually inappropriate? Van truthfully answered no to both of those questions. Alan attempted to solve the problem by suggesting that I could use the family locker room if I was uncomfortable changing in the women's locker room with Darren. Alan's response to Van that day was absurd just as much as it is still absurd today. Within the next few days, Alan Milkus was quietly transferred to another branch of the YMCA. And to this day, he has still not spoken to me about what happened in the facility that he directed. Shame on the leadership of the YMCA for allowing this behavior from one of their directors. Over the next several weeks, my husband and I very intentionally started our pursuit of the YMCA management chain of command with our questions and concerns. This process was slow and at times exhausting, but it seemed from the beginning that God had placed this opportunity in front of us, and turning away and being silent would not only be dishonoring to God, but to every woman and girl in our community who uses the YMCA locker room. I had naively assumed it was a completely safe and private place for women only. Staying silent when the women and girls in our community are in harm's way is something neither one of us were willing to do. My conscience motivated me to keep pursuing this evil. After my experience in the women's locker room, my husband Van took on the brunt of the meetings and phone calls on my behalf over the next 4 weeks. I was hopeful that Alan Milkus, Greater Dayton Area YMCA President Dale Bruner, or Vice Presidents Josh Schollenberger and David Thompson would at the very least show me some courtesy and take a report of my experience. My trust in these leaders started to slowly fade in the weeks that followed that September incident, as I began to realize that they had no interest in hearing from me. Instead, it was their intention to shut us up, as we were told on several occasions to not make this a public matter. According to the YMCA's own membership documents, incidents that happen at the YMCA will be thoroughly investigated and then appropriate action will be taken. However, because of the nature of my situation, they had no interest in investigating anything at all. They were more concerned about the reputation of their organization than about the safety of their members. After 4 weeks of silence from the Y, I invited myself to a meeting that David Thompson had set up with my husband Van. I left that meeting feeling more confused and hurt, and would say that the level of hate in my heart towards evil was still on the increase. Hate that this was happening in our community in an organization that claims to operate with Christian values, and angry that the YMCA was refusing to inform its members that men are permitted into women's locker room spaces. This is disgusting and shameful. Every woman and girl who enters the YMCA is in danger. The leadership of the YMCA does not protect a woman's right to have a safe place to change and shower. The YMCA refuses to inform its female members of this insane policy. And most recently, Judge McNamee's decision has made the women's locker room accessible to every sexually confused and perverted man. As long as these perverts keep their genitals covered and make no lewd comments, the YMCA is absolutely fine with naked men watching young girls and women shower and change. This is pure evil. To my shock, experiences similar to mine happened at the Xenia YMCA to 2 teenage girls back in the spring of 2022, and another incident happened to a mom in November as she protected her daughters from seeing Darren naked in the locker room. If the YMCA had communicated to its members when the first incident happened, it would have likely protected me and other women and girls from the trauma that we've experienced. I hate having to talk in public about these details. A responsible organization or a brave judge should have handled things differently. But instead, it feels like it's on my shoulders and on the shoulders of other brave women to speak up, and I am proud of the other victims who have chosen to stand with me. I hate that young girls had to see for the first time in their lives a naked man, and this happened to them in a space that they thought was safe. This memory will be forever etched in their minds. I have hated knowing that the Legacy Christian Academy swim team spent their entire season taking turns using the family locker room to keep their athletes safe because the YMCA chose to make Darren Glines comfortable. I hate that I cannot even drive to Walmart without driving past the YMCA and their scrolling sign inviting parents to sign their kids up for swimming lessons. Do these parents have any idea what else they may be signing their kids up for? I don't think so. I hate that I'm talking here about one of my former tennis players and someone our family has known since he was in the 5th grade. I hate that no one in authority is willing to tell Darren no. What good is it if I tell him no, if the YMCA and Judge McNamee will not back me up? I hate that the leaders of the YMCA know that Darren sexually assaulted a Fairborn YMCA employee, and yet they have no problem with him coming in and watching women and girls change in Xenia or in any other YMCA facility. This Fairborn YMCA employee currently has a restraining order against Darren. During the last 7 months, I felt like I have been witnessing a freak show. How many young girls in our city will have to sacrifice a piece of their innocence for this insanity? I am completely disgusted when I think that the leaders of the YMCA are able to live with this evil that has happened against me and so many other women and girls. These leaders should be ashamed of themselves. They have exchanged their relationship with churches in Xenia and have linked arms with the LGBTQ community and with the woke agenda. I don't know how the YMCA is going to fix this, but this is a problem that they have made for themselves. A starting point could be to remove current leadership and start over. The current YMCA leaders have blown it. When asked, Dale Bruner and Josh Solenberger could not even define the word woman, yet it is posted on the doors in their facilities. The YMCA must stop their deception. Beginning immediately, they must be truthful and clearly communicate to their members about the dangerous incidents that have taken place inside their Xenia facility and how they plan to prevent more from happening in the future. Standing up for the respect, dignity, and privacy for the women and girls of Xenia is something that is worth fighting for. Speaking up and acting against this evil is something we all must do. I ask the Xenia City Council to please take action. All support for the YMCA should be withdrawn. I ask you to please pursue every means possible to protect women and young girls in our city. And somehow the people in our city, the city of hospitality, need to know the truth. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Do we have anyone else that would like to come and address the council at this time? Please come to the podium and just state your name.
Hi, I'm Katisha Young. Forgive me, I'm not really a great speaker and I didn't prepare any. Forgive me, I'm not a great speaker and I did not prepare anything. But I do come with a message of foreboding. I am the lady that Janelle has spoken of, who has a protection order against Darren Glines. Personally, I have my own ideals about how to handle acceptance of individuals with mental illness. I have a master's degree in psychology. I have a lot of empathy for people who struggle with mental illness. When offered options with dealing with where to dress, we have several options. We have an 18 and up locker space within the women's and the men's locker room. We have a family locker room, which is an individual bathroom that also contains lockers within it. When offered these options, Darren declined. And not only that, but I also happen to know from a coworker her experience. I will not mention her name for her privacy's sake. But she also experienced Darren not just undressing in the locker room. He struts through the locker room bare naked, and he approached her, offering to help her break a lock off of the locker room, which is something we have to do if someone leaves their personal lock on the locker. He's ignorant of modesty and personal space, and this is the message of foreboding I need to bring to you. It is one thing to approach acceptance of individuals with mental health issues, and I do believe because I do have connections with other people who identify as trans women, they would be happy to use the family locker rooms. They do not wish to put anyone in any kind of awkward position. In fact, they're really quite understanding of sexual assault survivors. And this individual has chosen to abuse that knowledge. Really, I don't know what much to offer. I am willing to be a voice against abuse of our kindnesses, our welcoming of all people from all walks of life, with all sorts of struggles, hopefully to offer them help. But this individual is not one of those people. And I hope that for our sake we'll take heed, because he's not the only one. And there will be more victims if there is no one held accountable. And that's really all.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Atherton, 339 Brush Row Road here in Xenia. I want to publicly thank the women who stood up and who had the courage to be able to do that. I imagine there are many women that this has happened to that chose not to do that for their own personal reasons, and I would respect that. But if this is going to stop, we need to have some ladies to be able to step up to the plate, and I'm so thankful for the ones that have done so far. I'm here because I respect women. I'm here because I support women. I'm here because I respect the dignity and the privacy of women, and someone has to stand up for that. I look at it a little differently, and everybody may not agree with the way I look at it. My issue is not with the Darren Glines of the world. We have always had an element of our society who's pushed the boundaries of societal norms. We've always had that. We always will have that. There's nothing we can do to stop that. That will always happen. But in my 64 years of living, there's always been authority that has said, this far shall you come and no farther. And it seems like we don't have that now. And I'm here simply, I'm not a legal expert. I don't know all the realms of the boundaries of authority that you all have. But I'm asking you to be authority. I'm asking you to be able to step up and defend these women as well, and say to the transgender community who needs help, but say to them, if they continue to go in this direction, this far shall you come and no farther. I don't know what authority, what power you have at the YMCA, but something needs to be said. I've only lived in this community 13 years, but I know enough about this community to know that this is not Xenia, Ohio. And I just appeal to you to use your authority that makes sure that men locker with men and women locker with women.
Greetings. I am John Grady, and I live at 1080 Independence Drive here in Xenia. And so I thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I'm only here for one reason, and that's to briefly say that I'm here to defend women and young children. My life has been spent in education. I'm a superintendent of a pre-K through 12. And one of the first things I realized when entering the pre-K through 12, I'm there to protect the safety of children. And so what I see going on in Xenia, in this community, is tragic. And again, I think what's happening in America, what's sweeping across America today is not rational. So in fact, if you really want to boil it down, it's really a storm approaching us, which is really a great divide, which is good versus evil. And so I am very disappointed that this is what's going on in Xenia. I have a relationship with the Y where I use them for extended learning at the school that I work at. And it makes me begin to think, should I continue that relationship with them if this is what they believe? And of course, what's going on is we're following an executive order from the White House, which is not truly law. So why in the world we're even permitting this, or why the Y is interpreting it this way, is beyond me. But again, what I'm after here is to provide safety for women and girls. I know for my grandchildren now who love to go swim there, I am really panicked by this. And I think it is unfortunate what Legacy Christian Academy has gone through, where they had to protect their swim team. So again, I thank you for your service and what you're doing. I do thank the Holloways. I know it's been very difficult for them, everything they have gone through. The minute I heard about this, I just turned in prayer, and I couldn't believe. And I actually got to hear the testimonies of other women and girls. There was a roundtable meeting, I guess you would call it that Mark Atherton actually sponsored, and we all met. The one thing all the legislators there, myself included, thought was, we have to do something about it. This is not right. Now, I know Bill Dean said that he wants to be held accountable. He wants to do something. But I think what I'm learning in America, it has to start here. It has to start locally. Let's be the role model for the rest of the country. Let's do what is right. This is about what's right and wrong. The other thing that this is about is protecting our children. Remember, what I'm seeing today is children are very much at risk. So young people, young girls especially, let's go out of our way to defend them. So I just appeal to you. I know you're all great people, and I know you have to think through what kind of actions you can take. But I would just appeal to you to do something. And I'm realizing that so many of us, myself included, we've been silent in America. We know what is right and what is wrong. So one of the things the Lord is leading me to do in my career is continue to voice what needs to be heard. Mm-hmm. And so I thank Mark Atherton for letting me know this was going on tonight. And I do appreciate and thank you for at least letting me speak. Mm-hmm. So my appeal to you is, please take this seriously. Please be prayerful about what you do, because this is harming our community. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
Would anyone else like to come and address the Xenia City Council? Okay, well, thank you so much. We're going to close off the audience comments. Before we go into the next section, which is old business, and Law Director, do you need to say anything at this time, or would you like to?
We'd just like to have a brief executive session with council. I would like to have a brief executive session with council, just to get some general legal advice. Great.
So could I get a motion for adjournment into executive session at this time to have discussion with our legal counsel? Do I have a motion? So moved by the mayor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Scrivens. Any comments before we do that? All right, can I have a vote?
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean? Aye. Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays? Aye. President Ursul?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. We're just going to go in the chambers next door here. Should be very short. This is to have some discussion about another matter before us that we want to have some discussion with our legal counsel, and we should be back shortly. All right, we're gonna come back out of executive session and come back into our regular meeting agenda at this time. And I apologize for those of you who came tonight about that, but we need some time to talk as counsel with our legal counsel as well. Next item, under old business, is ordinance 2023-12, the public hearing. Madam Law Director, would you like to comment at this time? I'm sorry. No, we will move on this one. The next ordinance is 2023-12, public hearing tonight on amending section 210.05 of the city's legislative code to adjust the compensation of the mayor and the council members for the terms beginning on January 1st, 2024 and January 1st, 2026. This was introduced by Mayor Mays on 4/27/23. Mayor,
Thank you. I'd like to move for passage, please.
do I have a second on that? Second. Madam Law Director, or would you like to make any comments on this before we go into the public hearing?
I don't really have anything to add from what I explained to council last time on the front of your cover sheet. We did call around surrounding jurisdictions to see what the annual pay was locally for a lot of the jurisdictions. We tried to get about the same size, population size as Xenia. Our council remains one of the lowest paid in the area. Right now, two of the lower, West Carrollton, they're currently at $3,000 a year. That's going up to $6,000 a year in 2025. And Riverside is currently looking at raising theirs from $3,000 a year to $8,000 beginning in 2025. So our council's definitely very near the bottom of the list for the amount of time, particularly that you guys put in.
Great,
And again, these aren't increases. As you know, under how ethics law, you can't vote interim increases for yourself. These would be increases for those council seats that begin on January 1 of 2024, as there's an election in November.
Great, thank you so much. Well, this time I'd like to open a public hearing on this. If you have any comments for or against, or just observation, that please, if you come to the podium, state your name and address, and feel free to address the council. All right, this time I'm going to close the public hearing. Let's see, we have an introduction. Mm-hmm. Did we get a second on that?
Yep.
Second, great. Any other comments or discussion from the council before we vote? Just like to make an observation for the public. A lot of times when you think about a salaried employee, a lot of that has to do with what does that mean in terms of actual hourly compensation for the effort that you do. And I'm just going to make three broad generalizations which can't necessarily be applied to specific cases, but if with our current salary unit proposed, if you did the absolute minimum required by us here in council, and that would be council meetings, a little bit of preparation work prior, and committee meetings, compensation might be on the order of about $20 an hour. However, I'd say many council members do much more than that, and that would be roughly 20 hours a month. We have many council members that are putting in additional time on the order, I'd say around 40 hours a month, and that compensation might be roughly $10 an hour is what they're getting back. And trust me, that's far below what many of our council members could actually make in terms of their employment positions, that many of our council members give up appointed time to do that. And I want to make one other observation too. Our mayor puts in, I would say, at least 80 hours a month for this council. And she is available for a whole series of meetings with other mayors and managers, with organizations that are coming to look to do business with our city in coordination with that. And our mayor's being compensated about $5 an hour at this time. So I just want to put out there, as people say, whether we're being paid too much or not, that's a salaried position, but that's way below any minimum wage we have both at the state level and the federal level. So people on your council do this because they care for the community. Folks here are not doing this for pay. But I would say, though, as we look towards future council members, and once again, this pay doesn't go for anybody that's currently here. They'd have to run again, or whoever fills their seats. This is looking just to a very minor raise of the compensation that has not been raised since 2019. And we should look at compensating folks for the time that they're putting in, but this is way below just any kind of employment kind of compensation. And folks are doing it for the love of the city, but I believe we ought to be looking to compensate them as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Nay.
Councilman Branham?
Nay.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is ordinance 2023-13, public hearing. And Madam Law Director, would you like to make a few statements here?
Yes, we would like to ask council to table this item this evening. Between the time that you introduced it on the 27th, it's very important to us in enacting these new regulations that we get it 100% correct. There may be some tweaks we need to make based on some recent things we've learned regarding the ADA. So what we would like to do is ask you to table it this evening. We will bring it back to you on the 25th of May for amendment, and then ask that you hold the public hearing and vote on June 8th. But just to give us time, I would rather have you guys table it than we have to come back and try and fix it later. But we know we need to make a few tweaks.
Thank you. Once again, this was the amending sections 1222.04B, table 1222-3, 1222.05C, 1222.05D, 1224.01D, table 1224-1, and 1244.02 of the Land Development Code. And that was introduced by Councilwoman Dean on 4/27/2023. So the recommendation of the law director is that we table this at this time. Do I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dean. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any comments or discussion from the rest of council? All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean? Aye. Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
President Urschel?
I'm sorry, President Urschel. Have it.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yeah. Yes. So, apologize to the public. There was we had published that there was going to be a public hearing tonight, and I know a number of you had come to speak at that public hearing. This is fairly late-breaking information that we received as the council within the last couple of days, literally yesterday, that we need to do some addressing on this measure. We anticipate that the new modifications will be presented to us at the next meeting and introduced there, and that we will reschedule a public hearing for the first council meeting in the month of June. Is that June 8th? Is that correct? And so I would encourage you, please come back. If you had some comments on this, please come back and participate in that public hearing at that time. I'd also say that if you have things you'd like us to know as council, feel free to reach out to us. You don't have to wait for that meeting to talk to us as council. You can discuss anything that you have some concerns or feedback for us prior to those meetings as well too. So.
And Councilman Urschel, I'd just add why there's the difference. When we amended the charter, we did put in that if council makes amendments to the ordinance, you can't vote on it that night.
Correct.
To give us a chance to advertise it so that the public knows that
Right.
you've amended it. That's why there will not be any vote on the 25th. The
Correct.
public hearing and vote will be on June 8th.
8th, correct. Thank you. Thank you. All right, under new business, we have an emergency ordinance 2023-14, extending the moratorium on addiction treatment facilities established by ordinance 2022-31 and extended by ordinance 23-03 for an additional 30 days and declaring an emergency. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. In conjunction with this conversation, staff is recommending this emergency ordinance to extend this moratorium. As indicated by the law director, upon some additional review and consultation with legal counsel, we've determined that there is an opportunity for some adjustments to the legislation. However, the existing moratorium is set to expire before additional changes could be put in place. And so we are recommending that council approve ordinance 2023-14, which would establish an additional 30-day extension and allow this review process to be concluded, and then for the normal legislative process to ensue, incorporating any additional changes. And this would allow that moratorium to continue uninterrupted through the implementation of new legislation. We've had conversation with affected parties as part of this, and we think this is a proper and prudent step. And so we're recommending council take this emergency action this evening.
Great. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilwoman Dean. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by the Vice President. Any comments or discussion from the council? All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Next item is Resolution 2023-031, adopting and approving a debt administration policy as required by the Xenia City Code Section 250.03B to establish parameters and provide guidance governing the issuance, management, evaluation, and reporting on all debt obligations of the City of Xenia. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. The revisions to the finance chapter have caused us to go back and review many of the policies in the finance department. Of course, at the last meeting, council approved a new deposit and investment policy. We were recommending tonight changes to the city debt administration policy. There are several changes that were reviewed and that were reviewed by the Finance and Budget Committee and ultimately were endorsed by that committee. I'll run through some of the highlights of the changes that are being recommended in that debt administration policy. One of those is an alteration in the process for selection of bond counsel. The policy previously required an RFP to be done each time that we were issuing new debt for bond counsel. That wasn't practical, and that's not what we had been doing. It really doesn't make a lot of sense for us to go out and seek new legal counsel every time we're issuing debt. You'd prefer to have counsel who's familiar with city code, the charter, all those things. We also clarified, as a result of some changes in the charter, previously the finance director was the one who engaged the bond counsel. Now we're clarifying that the law director would engage the bond counsel based on the finance director's recommendation. That brings the policy in line with what the charter describes as the authority to contract for legal services with the law director. So that's one of the changes. Another change is to the it provides flexibility in the selection of financial advisors. The qualifications of the financial advisors doesn't change, but it gives more flexibility in the process. So again, we don't have to go through a formal RFP process when we're selecting a financial advisor. The policy also was amended to explicitly allow the issuance of bond anticipation notes for the acquisition of property and for development projects. The scope of what we could issue bond anticipation notes for previously was a little more narrow or just not as clear. The policy also clarifies that we can, in addition to property tax, pledge income tax on the payment of bonds, and this is something that some lenders have requested before. As council knows, our primary revenue source is income tax and not property tax, and so there are actually some lenders who would prefer that we pledge income tax revenue in lieu of property tax revenues when we borrow money, and so we made that change. We also bumped the maximum amount allowed for capital lease obligations up to $5 million is the cost of equipment and things that we would potentially look to a capital lease to finance. As those things become more expensive, we thought it was prudent to increase that amount, that we would that we would be allowed to seek capital lease options for in lieu of like a bond issue or something that's a little more complicated and a little more expensive as well. Sometimes those capital lease options are more affordable debt service options. So those are the highlights of the changes that we're recommending to the debt policy. We are requesting that council will pass a resolution to adopt and authorize the updated debt administration policy this evening.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Do I have a motion on this? Moved by the Vice President. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Dean. Any comments or discussion from the council?
Mr. President.
Yes. Councilman Scrivens.
Mr. Finance Director, item number 7, the tax increment financing, the TIF. Could you give me just a paragraph on that, please? I hear that bandied about quite a lot.
Yeah, tax increment financing allows essentially for the purpose of constructing public improvements or trying to get a project done, it gives a financing source for that. And so essentially the tax increment is the difference between the value of a property today and the value of property after it's improved. And so you can take the difference of that and the taxes that would be received as a part of that improved value, and rather than those going to the traditional beneficiary of those tax dollars, those dollars are reallocated to pay debt service typically for the public improvement or for the project that you're seeking to get done. So it's a way that
it's a bridge loan, basically.
It's not necessarily a loan. It's a way to finance public improvements that otherwise would likely not happen. And so you're looking at it and you say, okay, today this property is valued at this amount, and if we improve it, then it's going to obviously have a much better or higher value. If the public improvement doesn't happen, likely the project doesn't happen. And so the tax revenue wouldn't change anyway. So you're essentially saying, let's take the improved value and use that to incentivize the project and to help the project get done. And we've used TIFs in the past for projects. In the town square after the tornado is one of the primary places that we've used that in the past. But and we would anticipate likely using TIF as a way to get the new redevelopment of that site done here in the near future as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ryan, does that, just a little bit follow on with that, is that principally towards the inside millage because outside millage wouldn't be accruing additional income anyways, or do we actually accrue that on outside millage?
Yeah, it would be on both inside and outside millage. Yeah.
Okay.
Call for the yeas next.
Any other questions from council members? Let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean? Aye. Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays? Aye. President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 2023-032, authorizing the purchase of a 2-ton dump truck chassis through the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program and the purchase of a dump body with spreaders and snowplow units through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Public Service Department. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Staff is requesting authorization to move forward with this replacement for this 2-ton dump truck for our Public Service Department. The current vehicle is a model 2011 year. It's suffered extensive corrosive damage, large part because of its use with seasonal salt. Yeah, but it's a day-to-day vehicle, so it has a significant wear and tear on it. We've listed some of those deficiencies in your agenda report, so you get a sense of some of the concerns that we have for it just being roadworthy much longer. The vehicle is a frontline piece of equipment that's used on a day-to-day basis for street maintenance purposes, leaf collection season, and then certainly extensive use in the wintertime for salting and plowing. So it's a critical piece of equipment for us, aged and increasingly unreliable. So we are requesting authorization to move forward with a replacement. That replacement has been scheduled in our CIP, and we council did include in this year's budget $225,000 toward the replacement purchase. The desired replacement would consist of a chassis to be purchased from, as indicated, Stoops Freightliner of Dayton. This is at an amount of $97,581. This would be through ODOT's cooperative purchasing program. The body for the chassis with the spreader and snowplow attachments would be purchased from K.E. Rose Company through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program. That is in an amount of $120,852. As both the Cooperative Purchasing Program and Sourcewell are competitive bidding programs, no additional city bid process is necessary. So we are requesting authorization to move forward this evening. If authorized, we have been told that we would expect a 12 to 18 month lead time, which is consistent with a lot of the fleet that we've seen. So part of the reason we're bringing this now is it'll be next year at minimum before this would be in service. So making this request to move forward with this replacement as of this evening.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by the mayor. Any discussion from council members?
Council President,
Yes, yeah.
I was just curious what our reasoning was by paying the full amount out of the general capital fund versus putting it across sewer or water.
Yeah, so a number of these fleet vehicles we do assign to a particular department. There is some cross use. So we've recently purchased, I think it was one of the dual axle dumps out of sewer dollars that will get some use. So we try to balance that out in our budget. We have in the past split some of these costs up over multiple funds, but we try to keep a balance pursuant to the amount of work applicable for a particular either utility or general area. In this case, this vehicle is used much more consistently for what we would consider our general fund maintenance types of purposes, which is why we took it out of our general capital.
Thanks.
Yes, Councilman Scrivens.
Does the current unit have a snow blade and a spreader? So
Yeah.
we're replacing the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, one of the problems identified, I believe, in the agenda report was the auger is junk on the existing unit, so that would have to be replaced even if we didn't replace
Right.
this. So it's just an example of not only the truck, but some of those attachments are also end of life.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean? Aye. Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is the appointed officials reports. Mr. Finance Director.
I have nothing else for you this evening.
Thanks, Ryan. Madam Law Director.
I have nothing else for you this evening.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Oh, you know I do. Just a couple of items. First, we want to extend a huge thank you to all of the volunteers and vendors and participants of our spring fling a couple weeks ago. We had just a thread of the needle in terms of the weather.
Yes.
Perfect weather over the time period that we had the event. Fantastic crowd, and we've gotten very good responses from the vendors. In fact, we had to turn away craft show vendors this year because we had far more that desired to be there than we had space for. So this is another event that continues to gain a really positive reputation, a lot of momentum. Very proud of our staff for putting this on, and very thankful to the various folks who helped with different aspects of the event, the volunteers from the public that stepped forward. So again, thank folks for that. Also, want to thank folks for coming out to our neighborhood night out at Xenia Station earlier this week. Our first time hosting an event there. Had a real good turnout, lots of good conversation, and I want to thank the members of council who were able to come out as well. And thank the staff for taking another extra evening to do community outreach. Our next community event will be our Red, White, and Blue Block Party with the Sunny Cap Memorial Fireworks Festival. That'll be Friday, July 7th. The festival downtown will be 3 to 8 p.m. and then of course the fireworks down at Shawnee Park thereafter. And so we're looking forward to another fantastic event that's become sort of our showcase event here in our community. So we invite folks to put that on their calendar for July 7th. We want to remind folks in the community that we are officially in construction season. You will see a couple of large projects getting underway in the immediate future here in our community. Notably repaving of Detroit Street, North Detroit from Church all the way up to Kinsey. That will be a disruptive project, I promise you. We ask for the patience of our public. This project is intended to improve our infrastructure. to make a safer, better transportation route through that major corridor. It will be disruptive. We've elected to do daytime work as opposed to nighttime. So we will try to have a reasonable maintenance of traffic. But I just encourage people to be patient. It is the price of progress. So there's some inconvenience, but that roadway, once repaired, should last us quite a few years to go. Other projects will be coming, a couple roadway projects, a couple of other utility projects. We'll be starting work on utility line replacements on 2nd Street in June, so that'll be another project slated to begin in the immediate future. So we do have information that we'll be posting on our social media feeds, reminding folks of these events and any traffic issues. And then more detailed information on projects we have slated for the year is available on our website. Finally, just want to circle back to council and let you know that we are tentatively planning a walking tour as we do annually. We are looking to do that in conjunction with your regular session on June 8th. So following our meeting on the 25th of this month, we'll have a roundtable work session. June 8th, we're keeping that agenda for that night very skinny. I'm thinking right now it'll only be 2 agenda items, so we can keep that meeting fairly brief. And then we'll plan to provide transportation and have an itinerary set to visit various areas of the community to talk about a host of different topics. So again, June 8th, please plan for a little longer evening, dress comfortably that night, and we'll take you on a tour. And that is all I have this evening.
Great. Any question for our appointed officials? Okay, thanks so much. Next item will be council comments and reports. And if you have any of your committees or boards that you've met with, please give us some feedback at this time as well. Councilwoman Dean.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Councilman Branham.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to one of the Planning and Zoning Commission members, Casey Botford. He was nominated by a graduate of distinction at the Greene County Career Center for the Howard L. Post Excellent in Education Award. I think that was pretty phenomenal because of the fact that I think he's only been at Greene County Career Center for 2 years. So he's making a difference there at the Career Center. BZA is not going to meet this month. It's the cancellation's coming out. The mayor gave up the wrong seat. No, I'm just kidding. That's all I got to add.
Thank you, Councilman Branham. Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items. First, I want to congratulate all of the graduates who will be congratulating. We want to congratulate you on your graduation. You've got to put something up here between the ears to make things happen in life. So that goes for the college graduates and the high school graduates. Spring Fling and Neighborhood Night Out. I didn't get a chance to participate in Spring Fling. I had some other obligations, but I thought Neighborhood Night Out was a roaring success. Yeah. We need to have it there a few more times. I think that location is perfect. It's just the perfect location. What can I say? The Public Safety Committee hasn't met since our last session. I believe we'll probably be meeting within the next session. I'm glad to see action taken and progress made at Lexington Park. You know, that's one of my pet issues. And I grew up there, so any improvement there will just go a long way with me. Hamvention. That ought to be a big thing for us.
Next week.
Yeah, that ought to be really a big thing. The county had their annual breakfast, the Department of Development. I was there, and of course it was early in the a.m. The mayor was there looking good as usual. We definitely have to do something to show our mayor that the hours that she puts in is appreciated by the rest of us. She has so much on her schedule. She asks us from time to time to go and participate. And that tells me that she has schedule overload. So we need to do something about that. Also went to the Central State University's land grant agriculture extension building that they're building. Had a groundbreaking. And that was really a nice issue. Gave me a chance to take a look at that water tower up close. And I did a little inspection there with the county engineer by my side. So got some real information to work with. And with that, Mr. President, just want to wish everyone a good weekend. This is like the first weekend we don't have to do anything but enjoy ourselves. So there's nothing on the schedules but commencements. So just enjoy life for a minute. COVID's over. Everybody take a deep breath. and enjoy one another. Tomorrow's not promised to you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. Councilman Dean.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't really have anything else to add tonight.
Mr. Vice President?
Sure, got a couple items. Just was informed today, there's a Budget Finance Committee meeting. That's going to be Tuesday, May 23rd, 4 o'clock, right, Jared? Thank you. So we'll be discussing some topics there. I'd like to offer my condolences to the family of Stephanie Blackburn.
Yes.
Stephanie was a faith warrior for the city. She was instrumental in helping the last few years with having ministers come do our invocation for us. That's a huge loss in our community. So prayers for her family, and I know she's at peace now and in a much better place. So certainly very sad to hear that. My twins had her a couple years as a teacher at Tecumseh Elementary, and my daughter before that had her as a nurse in the Xenia Community School System as well. So again, so sad to hear about that. Other than that, I just want to thank city staff for all the projects we've had lately, and I know a lot more going on. And you have an idea when North Detroit Street project will start?
I think it's the first week of June.
Okay, so I'll be after him, that's right.
And that was part of the calculation.
That was great. Okay, sure, okay. And again, thanks for the improvements at Lexington Park. I saw the gardens are plowed and ready to go. Are they going to mow that area in the back? Do you know?
Yeah, I think we're going to reseed it again. You're talking about the new area or?
The old garden where it's overgrown.
Yeah, I'll make note of that.
Well, it's I'm sure it's been too wet to probably even get in there to do it.
I was just out there the other day to see the improvements and notice there are a few things needed.
So appreciate that. Give that another shot this year. And other than that, appreciate everybody that came tonight and spoke, and who came tonight but did not speak because we tabled an item. And those that are watching, appreciate your dedication to the city. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you. On Friday, the 28th, I was able to attend the Arbor Day celebration at Tecumseh Elementary. We had a lot of fun, and our tree committee was out there. Not only did they plant a tree, but they gave seedlings out to the 5th and 6th, or the 4th and 5th graders. Our tree committee did a great job. It was a very fun event. On that same evening, President Urschel, apologize. We both attended the Family Violence Prevention Center Spring Fling. That is their annual fundraiser. Debbie Matheson puts on an incredible evening, and it's a very largely attended event, and people really do support the work that they're doing there. So I wanted to congratulate them on an excellent event. On the 29th, as has been mentioned, it was the Xenia Spring Fling, and I wanted to give a shout out to my ex-rec committee and the volunteers who came out and helped out that day. Everything from moving cones for the car show to directing traffic for the food trucks. I mean, just a little bit of everything. So my committee, our ex-rec committee volunteers, they did a great job. Christina Schaefer, Ryan Baker, and then especially Becky Hawks down at Flower Bakery, who really puts her heart and soul into this event. And I just wanted to congratulate her and the work that she's doing. On a side note, Becky is also the one putting on the farmers market that's coming up this Saturday. Starts Saturday 9 a.m. to 12. Right in front of the courthouse. This is kind of their soft opening, but they'll be doing this every Saturday throughout the spring and summer. So if you have a chance to come to downtown Xenia, 9 a.m. to noon, and stop by the farmers market, I'm really excited to see that happen. Thursday, May 4th was the National Day of Prayer. Had an opportunity to attend a prayer breakfast at Green Memorial Hospital. I was allowed the privilege to pray for our public officials, our elected officials, as well as our first responders, and that is a huge privilege, and I was very honored to do that. And wanted to thank Ron Sweiger, their chaplain, who does such an outstanding job, and he has been a personal friend. He's been a friend to our family, and he really cares for the community at Green Memorial. Immediately following that, they were also doing a day of prayer at the courthouse and had an opportunity to read scripture on the steps, but also just take time to pray over our city. And that is that is many of our hearts is to pray for our community. So it was a great day to participate in that. Friday, May 5th, I attended the Greene County Annual Report out of the Emerge Center. I wanted to congratulate Eric Henry, did a great job representing the county and showcasing a lot of what's happening here. Tuesday, May 9th, attended the Xenia Area Association of Churches and Ministries, and I just wanted to thank the city schools. They were gracious enough to host, and we haven't had an event out there before, so that was really great that we were really able to do that out at the school board building. On Wednesday, May 10th, I attended Mayors and Managers with the city manager. There was a presentation about Bridges Path, and if you don't know about their work there and the work they do with kids who are being born addicted, they just do incredible work. So wanted to just highlight that for a moment. Today, I had an opportunity to meet with the DDC, a representation from the Dayton Development Coalition, as well as Jeremy Irvin from the STEAM Academy, and connect them, talk about some ways that we can really highlight what's happening here in Xenia with the STEAM Academy and promote that with some of the businesses that are looking here, including with the work with the base as well as the Honda and LG plant. So that was a great meeting, very excited about that. Looking forward to Saturday to commencement. Making sure I said everything. XREC did not meet this last couple of weeks just because we had already done the event. We took a month off, and we'll get back at it soon with the fishing derby coming up. And then I just wanted to know, obviously, two things. Stephanie, her passing is a huge loss for the Xenia community. And if you didn't know her, she prayed for Xenia all the time. And she was a woman who was committed to this community, and we will miss her greatly. I also wanted to note the passing of one of our retired reserve officers, Phil Ayers. For almost 30 years, he worked out at the Greene County Garage, working as a mechanic, and then for 20 years, he was one of our auxiliary police officers for our Xenia Police Department. He passed away recently, and I know Chief Stutes and others have spoken very highly of him. And he was a good man who will be greatly missed. His funeral is tomorrow at St. Bridget at 11 a.m., so we want to pay our respects to him and his family. That's all I have.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. I had an opportunity to participate in the National Day of Prayer as well, and I was watching my grandkids in the morning, so I couldn't do the prayer breakfast, but I got to the courthouse, and I'll tell you, it may seem as an odd thing to be out there reading scripture and praying, but when you're actually part of it, it actually is extremely peaceful. And it was one of the more encouraging couple hours of my day to sit out there and just to have people reading passages of scripture and pausing and praying for our community. And I just appreciate the group that put that on, the Women Aglow group, and the folks that came out to do that. Just a lot of different folks from the community came out to do this. So it was just a healthy time. We also had a community prayer time that evening, sponsored by the Xenia Area Association of Churches and Ministries, and we were going to have that at one of the churches, and we ended up doing that at our shelter at Bridges of Hope, and we did it in the community room. The folks at the shelter were in the other part of it, and we had about 20 folks from the community came to pray for an hour. And Robert Adamson, the shelter director, invited folks from the shelter if they'd like to come over as well. And we had 9 guests at the shelter that came over. And it was a rich time to have folks from the shelter there just opening their hearts up about what's going on in life and how all of us pray together with it as well. So that was just a wonderful time. Neighborhood night out, once again, kudos to the crew put that together. I had 4 of my grandkids there, and they had a blast being part of that. And as we were walking away, there was a group of kids on bikes. There was probably about 12 of them, and they were just sort of watching what was going on. And I went over and I said, "Hey, everything is free, and you need to go on over." They said, "Free?" And I said, "Absolutely, you guys get on over there." So they all hopped on their bikes and drove on over. So it's just, and I think that's a wonderful, Tommy, I agree with you. That's a wonderful place for us to have that. It's a perfect place for us to have that environment. Yeah. Tom and I are at the commissioners meeting today, and the commissioners approved our annexation today that we proposed to them, so that was good news as well. One item from the school board meeting from this last week, unlike most property tax items, that as the value of the property goes up, the income stays, so the actual taxation drops if the property values go up. The schools have a 20 mil buffer there that if the property values go up, their taxes go up as well. And the county auditor is looking at a fairly substantial increase at his next audit for property tax values, which will not, outside of the inside millage, we will not, see that here in the city or other areas. But this is going to be, I'm going to use the word windfall, but a very substantial increase. They were saying on the order of $5 million a year to the Xenia Community School District. So that with the income tax passing that just passed in the last ballot here has put the school district in a very sound financial position, and as they're doing their projections out for the next 7 years as well too. So good on the school district. They're in a very sound. They are moving forward with what's going on at the middle school, and they also had some discussion about safety items there too. And they have made a decision to purchase the safety film for the. Of course, I know that was something we had some discussions with them about, both for the existing schools as well as for the new school as well too. And this item once again isn't going to stop any ballistic items, but it will make it much difficult for someone to gain access through glass areas, doors, especially at the new middle school. So there's a lot of glass activity going on there. So, anyways, kudos to the school district for doing that. The farmers market. This is going to be a new item for us. It's going to be every Saturday. It's kind of their first thing is flowers for Mother's Day. So come out, and if you haven't gotten anything for your mom, or for your daughters who are moms, or for your wife who's a mom, it'll be a great time to go grab some flowers. That's going to the principal focus for this next Saturday as well too. Just a brief comment for those of you who've come and spoken your hearts tonight. Appreciate that. It's a hard thing to come and speak in front of a group, but especially sometimes it's kind of put off. We're all sitting up in this rotunda thing here, and we're not sitting face to face. So I just appreciate everybody taking the time, letting us know where your hearts and your concerns are for our community. One item I would just say is there's a lot of this is at the state level with the state legislature, and so there will be some things that we most likely as individuals and as a council may be making some requests to our legislatures, but it's beyond our power and control here at the local level to address. We've got our law director is very intimate with this and is giving us great counsel on that, and there may be some things that we may make on both the private perspective in terms of requests to the legislature for some clarification of items at the state level that need to happen, because as they're not clarified, they cause a lot of consternation across, and it's not very clear. So more to come on that, but thank you for your feedback and input for us there. Go ahead.
I also wanted to say thank you, and I don't want to lose this moment to look you all in the eye and say thank you for coming. It takes courage, and that you are heard, and it is appreciated, and I say from my heart, thank you.
Mr. President, one final.
Yes, Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you. I'd just like to express condolences to the family of David Harding. David and Amber and Daryl and Colby Hewitt, the family. Unexpected passing of a lifelong friend.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Sure. And one other item too with the Bell family here on East Market Street. Leslie passed away from a brain aneurysm just last week. Her mom lives here in town and extended family, and they had moved here from West Dayton to Xenia to find a little more peaceful place to live and raise their family and stuff. And I think they did find that as well. But anyways, a lot of grieving going on in that family as well right now too. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and call the council meeting adjourned for this evening. I need a motion, don't I? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Scrivens.
Yes.
Motion by Councilwoman Dean. Let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean. Aye. Councilman Brandon.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Mayor Mays. Aye. President Urschel.
Aye. Motion moved. Meeting adjourned.